In the previous part, we saw that AI, after snatching the two-piece key to the defense system, called Entity's source code from Gabriel, successfully escapes with Ethan and Benji. Now, since he knew that no one could control any entity, he cut off all contact with everyone. But in all this, Elsa is killed. A few months after these events, the Madam President of the U.S. locates Ethan and sends him a recorded message saying that the entity has spread false information worldwide, causing severe chaos in cyberspace, because of which all countries are close to nuclear war against each other. Moreover, some people believe the entity's ideology is correct and are ready to fulfill its destructive purpose to ruin the world. So Erica further explains that to stop the entity, they must reach its source code, and Gabriel might know its location. However, the entity has erased all evidence leading to it. Still, the Australian authorities have kept Gabriel's companion Paris in custody. After revealing all this, Erica asks Ethan for the key to reach the entity in order to save the world from war. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Ethan immediately meets his old friends Benji and Luther, changes his appearance, and infiltrates an Austrian prison to free Paris. There, with Benji's help, Ethan knocks out Agent Jasper, who was taking Paris, and successfully convinces another agent, Degas, that they want to save the world. Then, because Paris's life was spared in the previous part, she tells Ethan the probable location of Gabriel, and his team directly reach the U.S. Embassy in London to capture Gabriel. But unfortunately, two IMF agents recognize Ethan. Before they can contact their people, Grace cleverly takes their walkie-talkies and guns. Ethan knocks them both unconscious and puts them to sleep right there. Afterwards, Grace asks him about the next plan, but suddenly two men come and inject both Ethan and Grace with sleeping drugs and capture them. When Ethan regains consciousness, Gabriel appears before him and reminds Ethan that a long time ago, when a man named David kidnapped Ethan's wife, Julia, Ethan had stolen an incomplete prototype weapon called Rabbit Foot from the Shanghai lab to save her. Actually, that Rabbit Foot is today's entity, meaning it was Ethan himself who brought the entity into existence without even knowing what he was stealing. Gabriel then puts forward a condition that if Ethan brings the source code of the entity from the Sevastopol submarine, only then will he release Grace alive. Hearing Gabriel's demand, Grace and Ethan realize that the entity abandoned Gabriel because he failed to get the key, and now Gabriel wants the source code to control the entity. Knowing that Gabriel knows only Ethan can bring the source code, Ethan breaks a tooth filled with cyanide and threatens Gabriel that if he doesn't release Grace, he will kill himself by swallowing the cyanide. Before Gabriel understands, Ethan swallows the cyanide, which forces Gabriel to free his hands quickly. Seizing the opportunity, Ethan attacks Gabriel's men and rescues Grace. Actually, Ethan had swallowed a capsule that produces foam, so understanding the situation, Gabriel escapes from there. While leaving, Gabriel tries to pick up a chamber from his locker, but the locker locks before he touches it. Gabriel leaves without it. Seeing that chamber box, Paris says that Gabriel used it to communicate with the entity. When Ethan faces it, the locker and then the box open on their own. Ethan understands that the entity wants to communicate with him. After lying inside the box, the entity connects with Ethan and observes all his guests. At the same time, it also learns that Luther has created a program whose device, if plugged into its source code, the program will destroy it, and Luther has named this program the Poison Pill. Among the possibilities, Ethan sees that Gabriel himself is destroying the entity. After that, the entity shows Ethan the world's most secure bunker, located in Africa, and talks about taking itself there. That bunker is called Doomsday Vault. Actually, the entity could not reach there because it was surrounded by an electronic shield, which the entity could not penetrate. The bunker contained all the knowledge of humanity so far, and the entity wanted to keep itself alive for thousands of years with its help. Then the entity shows Ethan that he will obtain the source code, but his entire team will be buried in ice. Now Ethan has only two options. First, let the world be destroyed, or second, hand over the world to the entity and let it run the world according to its terms. After showing all this, the entity also shows Ethan the destruction of Earth in a nuclear war 3 days after Gabriel's probable death. Then Ethan comes out of the chamber and quickly tells his team that they have to go to the northern part to find the coordinates of the South Pole. He explains to Benji that by going north, they will find the coordinates. They just need to find a source station to transmit the coordinates. Now, he needs a plane without GPS, so the entity cannot detect them. After explaining all this, Ethan rushes to save Luther, but before he reaches there, Gabriel takes the poison pill program's pen drive from Luther and plants a chain reaction bomb, then leaves. At that exact moment, Ethan arrives. Luther tells him that this bomb is so powerful that it will destroy the entire city. Ethan tries to save him, but Luther explains that he can stop the chain reaction and save the city, but still cannot prevent the bomb from exploding. Therefore, he removes the poison pill drive from Gabriel through a tunnel before the blast, because if Ethan dies, the world's destruction is certain. After coming out of the tunnel, Ethan gives the key to Jasper and surrenders. Jasper takes him to the USA Emergency Command Center. There he meets CIA Director Eugene, who tells Ethan that the entity has taken control of nuclear weapons of all countries except 4. Then the heads of all the U.S. Armed Forces and the Madam President meet Ethan. Ethan asks them for a key and an aircraft carrier to destroy the entity. When no one agrees, Ethan explains that the entity has taken control of the nuclear systems of almost all countries, and the entity will force them to start a nuclear war, or it will start it itself. In either case, war is certain. But among thousands of possibilities, there is only one chance where he can destroy the entity. Then Ethan asks the Madam President for only 3 days. She refuses and has him arrested. At the same time, she gives him a secret letter. Actually, she gave Ethan 3 days by giving him the key because she did not want to argue with her military chiefs. Outside, a soldier gives Ethan the president's letter to deliver to Navy Admiral Neely. With the help of a helicopter, she takes Ethan to the warship of Carrier Strike Group X in the Northern Pacific. There, Ethan sends the president's letter to Admiral Neely. She sees only one date on it, May 22, 1996. Seeing this, Neely says that this is the same date on which if she and Erica had taken even a little risk, many lives could have been saved. Her secret message is that she must listen to Ethan. Meanwhile, Benji tells everyone that SOS is actually a sound surveillance system located underwater. The station easily captures and records every major event. These stations are spread all over the world. That is why the place where we found the submarine crew's bodies is St. Matthew Island in the Bering Sea. There is also a source station there, and that station must have recorded the attack on the Sevastopol submarine and saved the coordinates. Ethan also understands this entire matter. Then Neely explains that the entire area is under Russian military surveillance, and if we go there, the chances of a Third World War will increase. Even if the correct coordinates are found, you will need a submarine that can take you to those coordinates while avoiding the Russian Navy. Then, Neely asks how Ethan will get out of Sevastopol. Ethan says he will have a transmitter, and his team will track him, cutting through the ice to get him out. However, no one trusted this plan, because the cold, icy water could cause hypothermia and kill Ethan. Moreover, Neely says there is only one submarine there, and she will send it a message, but they are not sure if it will receive the message and come up. Even if it does come up, you will have only 30 seconds, and if you are late, death is certain because no one will come to save you. Still, Ethan assures Neely that he wants to do this mission. So Neely gives him her locket, and with the help of a helicopter, sends the location of her submarine. But as soon as they reach there, Russian fighter jets immediately warn them to leave. Now, besides jumping into the cold sea, Ethan has no other choice. So he jumps into the sea to save the pilots. And the pilots immediately leave. Meanwhile, Benji and the others reach the social station on St. Matthew Island. There, Benji sees that Danilo is operating the station with his wife. Danilo is the same person who built the world's safest black vault. But Benji does not tell him that Ethan, one of his comrades, had broken into his vault and stolen data, which has kept him working here for the past 30 years. At that moment, Grace Danilo suggests checking the entire data of the station. But before that, Russian soldiers already present there surround them. On the other hand, Ethan begins to suffer from hypothermia in the icy water. At that moment, 2 divers knock him unconscious and take him into their submarine, Actually, they received Neely's message. Ethan gives Neely's locker to the submarine's captain and tells him to go north, where they are supposed to receive some coordinates via transmission. The captain will have to bring his submarine up, which is not without danger. There is a chance that the Russians might find out the location of their submarine. Then the captain shows Ethan a map and says that a small Russian submarine stopped at St. Matthew Island. Both of them suspect that maybe Ethan's team is in the hands of Russian soldiers. Meanwhile, Donolo tells everyone that the backup of old data is in old floppy disks, but he does not have a reader. The Russian soldiers give him an hour to make a recorder. Then Donolo guesses that one set of keys is still with the Russians, which they have had from the beginning, and now they only need the coordinates. Out of necessity, Benji starts making the recorder. At that moment, Donolo tells Benji that there are no coordinates in those floppies, but he remembers the exact coordinates of the explosion that happened in Sevastopol. He immediately writes the location on a piece of paper, hides it in his watch, and gives it to his wife. Under the pretense of feeding his dogs, he sends her out with Grace. Meanwhile, inside the submarine, they give Ethan an advanced pressure suit to reduce the ocean pressure and advise him to practice heavy breathing, because after going so deep, Ethan is sure to suffer from high-pressure nervous syndrome, which will cause unbearable pain. Practice starts, but then a member of the submarine attacks Ethan with deadly force. Actually, he was affected by the entity, but another member of the team saves Ethan just in time. Seizing the opportunity, Ethan's team clashes with Russian soldiers. During the gunfire, Donlo's house catches fire, and without worrying about his life, he transmits the coordinates. Those coordinates reach Ethan, but the captain explains that these coordinates are on the opposite side of the world, meaning opposite to them. Hearing this, Ethan slightly rotates the map, and the coordinates flip to show a location nearby. Then Ethan tells the captain to go near the location and then turn back to escape from the Russian submarine, so that the Russian submarine will follow the captain's trail and Ethan can slip away. The team puts a pressure suit on Ethan and places a tracker in his suit so that his location can be tracked. Ethan emerges from the submarine and, escaping from the same submarine, starts moving toward the coordinates. Going deep down, he finds a cheap Polish submarine, searches for its decompression chamber, and enters it. But as soon as he drains the water from the chamber, the submarine's balance shifts, and it begins to slip downwards. Ethan somehow reaches the submarine's sonar sphere and acquires the source code of the entity. But with increasing pressure, the submarine starts going down faster, filling with water. Ethan quickly tries to escape from the torpedo launching chamber, but gets stuck because of the pressure suit. So he cuts his suit quickly, pushes the oxygen supply, and escapes outside. At that moment, the submarine plunges into the ocean depths. Now, Ethan tries to reduce his weight by leaving the suit behind and attempts to surface, but suffers from hypothermia and loses consciousness. His breath had stopped. Just then, Grace, who was waiting there, pulls him up, lays him in the decompression chamber, and starts CPR. After much effort, Ethan starts breathing again and regains consciousness. Afterwards, Ethan and his team head toward the Damsday bunker in South Africa. He knew Gabriel would be there because Ethan had seen Gabriel upload the poison pill pen drive himself to control the entity. Then Benji explains that once the software is uploaded, the entity will think it is going to the bunker's data center, but actually it will come into this 5D optical data device. We have to remove this drive as soon as the receiver light turns green at a speed of 1/100th of a second. He further explains that if they act quickly, the entity won't be able to enter the drive. If they are late, the entity will launch a nuclear missile. Then Ethan tells everyone that it was decided from the start to take the entity to the bunker and give Gabriel the source code, and it will happen no matter what. Grace is scared because millions of lives are at risk, so Ethan entrusts Grace with the responsibility to remove the optical device on time. After that, they all reach the bunker. Ethan sees that before the server room, Gabriel had planted a huge nuclear bomb. Before Ethan could give Gabriel the source code, Agent Jasper holds Gabriel at gunpoint. Gabriel's men activate the bomb's timer. CIA Director Eugene also arrives there with Jasper and asks Ethan for the source code and the plan. Ethan tries hard to convince Eugene to give the source code to Gabriel, but Eugene doesn't understand. Taking advantage of the moment, Gabriel's men open fire and escape in a vehicle. Benji tells Ethan to chase Gabriel and get the poison pill. As Ethan leaves, Grace sees that Benji has been shot. Meanwhile, Ethan's vehicle overturns in a tunnel. Gabriel runs to catch up, but he escapes using a small analog plane. Another plane appears behind him. Ethan grabs onto it, hangs from it, then throws out the pilot and takes control of the plane himself. Meanwhile, inside the bunker, Don Lowe, his wife, and Degas attempt to stop the nuclear reaction of the bomb, knowing they likely won't survive. Don Lowe instructs Grace, Benji, and Paris to go to the server room and finish the mission. Inside the server room, Benji begins to feel unwell, realizing his blood pressure is too high and he might suffer a heart attack. He asks Paris to relieve pressure by making a cut on his chest. He then quickly instructs Grace to make changes to the server panel before activating the receiver. Don Lowe figures out how to increase the 10-second timer, giving all three enough time to reach the server room and escape. At the emergency center, leaders realize they're the only ones who have survived the entity's nuclear control. They try to convince Madam President to sacrifice 100 million people to save 7 billion, suggesting they use their own nuclear missiles to destroy the world's other nuclear sites. As Madam President prepares to launch the missiles, she places her faith in Ethan and cancels the launch. She then instructs the Nuclear Command Center to take all the missiles offline. At that moment, a security guard opens fire, but General Sidney sacrifices himself to save Madam President. Meanwhile, the entity begins fueling all nuclear missiles simultaneously after gaining control. Grace activates the receiver, and everyone waits anxiously for Ethan to insert the poison pill into the source code. Don Lowe grabs the last detonator. Ethan boards Gabriel's plane, breaks his arm, takes the poison pin, and releases Gabriel's seatbelt. Forced to eject, Gabriel hits the plane's tail and dies from a severe head injury. Ethan then jumps with another parachute, but his glider catches fire. Still, he manages to insert the poison pill into the source code just in time and opens his second parachute. 2 seconds later, the receiver light turns green, and the optical device activates. Grace disconnects the entity from the server just before it can launch the missiles. The bunker explodes, triggering a worldwide blackout. The team succeeds in their mission. The entity is now trapped inside an optical device. A short while later, light returns to the world, and everyone learns that Ethan has completed the mission successfully. Ethan receives a recorded message from Luther, who says he always believed only Ethan could accomplish this because he was made for it. As the message ends, the device and the source code self-destruct. Ethan hands over the burned device and source code to Eugene. The entire team then reunites in London, and each heads their separate ways. And in the midst of all this, there's one more piece of good news. Benji survives, and that's where the movie ends.